Welcome to the presentation of SlimCD's Sandbox test accounts, and you can use these accounts to test your application. So a little information about our company, but I'm going to skip that because we've gone over it quite a bit. The SlimCD Sandboxes allow you to share test accounts with other developers. So be aware these are shared test accounts. Please don't put in your real information, and you can create fake card numbers by any card number generator on the web or use standard ones that we provide as well. These accounts use the same URLs as production, so you won't be trapped by sending data to the wrong URL once you move to production, although please be aware that the test accounts, since they run in production, don't go live with a test account. These accounts are shared, and I want to repeat that, so be careful to use test data only. I always like test for a first name and person for a last name and 123 test street, things like that if you're putting in addresses. These accounts use a simulator, which means the cards won't actually be authorized. The approved decline status is actually determined and triggered by transaction amounts, and we're going to cover that a little later, and different amounts cause different responses, so you can test approved, declined, errors, things like that. Even though a transaction is approved in the test amount, it may not be the best verification that this transaction contains all the necessary data to get the best approval rate or financial rates for the merchant through the merchant services provider. There are other considerations if you're in specific industries like hotel, that you have to include all the hotel data, or if you're a pharmacy, to approve flex spending cards, you need to itemize your products and perform IIAS verification and validation. That's beyond the scope of these test accounts, but I just want to make you aware if you're in those specific industries, just because you get an approval doesn't mean all of your cards will be approved, and you may need to check for some extra data. The same is true for purchase order sales tax level 2 data or level 3 data. You can certainly send it. You can look online in our reports to see that it's there, but it doesn't mean you're doing it all right. A lot of that you'll have to just test when you go live to make sure. Now, we do have different accounts for different industries. Here's the client ID and the site ID, price ID, password, and this is also available on our website. I'll show you that in a sec. So make sure that you're using the right account for the right type of merchant that you're programming or developing for. Now, the accounts offer full login capability, so these usernames and passwords that we just saw, the client ID and the password, can be used to log into slimcd.com, and you can review your transactions online. From there, you can also create API access credentials, and I suggest you review our information and video on API access credentials. Those are highly effective so that you don't put passwords in your actual applications. So take a look at those, and you can create them right in the test accounts, but you have full access to all the SlimCD APIs for processing, reporting, and everything through these test accounts. The card numbers for most of these accounts, just get something that LUHN Mod 10 checks. I always like 4444, 5555, 6666, 9999. It's a very simple card number. Some of these cards, if they get too much, used too much, can get blocked by our velocity checking, so it doesn't hurt to use a card number generator and make some. We actually have two different simulators that we'll connect to. One is our own, and that's the one that's mainly used. Once in a while, we'll actually send it to a processor's test host. In that case, the processor's test host, for every amount from a penny to $1.99, gives you different decline messages from that processor. $2 and up, but less than 1,000 gives you approvals. We use the same thing they do for the CVV2. Any card beginning with a 4 is a Visa. Use 999 for the CVV2, MasterCard 998, and you see the list there. So when using our simulator, anything less than $1, you get a communication error. You'll get approved up to $100 with one specific case of $96, and if you've allowed partial approvals, you'll ask for 96, but the approved amount that comes back in the reply, it's approved, but the approved amount is set to 80. So if you want to test partial approval functionality, which is used when you want to accept multiple forms of payment or gift cards, things like that, that $96 test with allowing partial approvals is a good one to use to test that. If it's more than 100 but less than 1,000, you're going to get approved, but it's going to come back with a B for the approved value instead of a Y, which means it was approved, but it was a business card, which means it can accept level 2 data, the purchase order, sales tax, that information. So check out our video on the details fields for level 2, level 3, and all the industry specifics. In the meantime, know that if you're checking the approved value, you have to check for both a Y and a B. If you're just checking the response of success on a process transaction, then that also means approved. So here's all your transaction types and the different amounts to give you the different responses. And for your data, if you're trying to check address verification and you want to check the different replies and make sure that your code handles all the address verification possibilities, here's the test data in our test simulator that gives you back each of these different replies. And again, you can log on to stats.slimcity.com to check the transactions that you're sending through and make sure that what you're sending appears, and that lets you know you're getting successful all the way through. It's not validating the industry specific data, and when using the semi-integrated hardware with these same test accounts, the EMV chips are supposed to receive data back from the issuer. This data is verified against the chip so that the chip can tell whether the transaction has been altered in its response back from the issuer. In that case, our simulator's making up some EMV tags that may or may not work on individual chip cards, and you may find that if the chip rejects the transaction, then the chip tells our semi-integrated software, oops, this was not good, void it. And if you look online, you'll see the sale followed by a void, and you'll have gotten a decline back from our semi-integrated solutions. So be aware that if you're using the hardware semi-integrated solutions with these test accounts, you may find some cards that work fine and don't care about the response that comes back being altered, and other cards will actually say, hey, this has been a tampered answer, which is correct, it has been, it's fake, and it'll have our software automatically void the transactions. So that really applies mainly to the people using chip card testing with different hardware, but I just want to make you aware of that. So gift and loyalty have their own set of problems, as well as check processing. Different check processors require different fields. So if you're using one check processor versus another, or even within the same check processor, however they've approved the account for check processing, maybe in one case the check processor doesn't need a driver's license, but the very same check processor for a different merchant, driver's license and state and social security are required. So you could have different fields required for check processing. So the test accounts may not match the needs of your live merchants when you go live, so be aware of that. You certainly can test check processing, and you'll have to probably work with us to make sure we get a test account that closely resembles what you'll do in production with that particular check processor. So be careful of that for check processing. And gift processing also has the same type considerations. Gift card numbers are actually not like Visa and Master where they're open loop and you can use them on any system. Instead, gift cards are tied to a specific account on a specific processor, and they'll set up specific test card ranges and specific values, as well as specific functionality, loyalty programs that go along with it and things like that. So for gift card processing, you can use our own gift card system, or if you're using one on a processor, then you probably want to actually get a true test account set up with that processor and get card numbers from that processor and test that way, because we found that even though things work in our test environment, and specifically if you've got very important gift card features that are associated with your merchant, they may want to actually have a program on the processor's host set up that mimics the same thing that the actual merchant will have in production, and that way you're doing true tests. So you can do some basic tests for gift cards and checks, but you really want to be careful with those because there are some caveats there. So our standard URLs to our developers' websites are available, and the test account information. Let's actually take a quick look at that on our developers' website. So I come to our developers' website, and here we'll have the Investigate tab, and we click on Investigate. The Sandbox test accounts are right here online, so you can get all this information. There's their chart of all the test accounts, some card numbers to use, and some information, the same type of information I've provided. So when you're using the processing URLs, send your transactions for processed transactions to trans and pull your reports from stats. You don't have to do this. It's highly recommended though, because we've balanced the trans server to accept transactions rapidly, and the stats is designed to give data back rapidly. So by taking advantage of those architectures, you're setting your server or your application up to use the system that's best set up for that particular type of web service call. And thank you for watching this presentation of the test accounts. Please feel free to reach out to us and contact us with any questions and let us know how we can help.